strategic side. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. That's good. Thank you for those suggestions of games. So we've got 2 more categories left to go, and we've been talking at you for an hour and a half, so we'll perhaps move along a little bit faster through these ones. So empathic or social immersion describes the connection that a player may develop towards the characters, AI characters, or potentially human-controlled characters, and the social context of the game. So basically, it's an emotional connection with the characters and social context, what's going on here. My favorite example of this that sticks in my head from recent years is Life is Strange. And it's a game, for people who don't know it, about kind of college age. It's a couple of young women, college age, in America, teenagers, their friendship, their love between them. But one of them discovers they can turn back time, and there's some sort of storm-like apocalypse going to destroy the whole town. I really connected with these characters. I admittedly, I felt the writing improved over the series, over the kind of the episodes. The games, it was an episodic game. And I start off with, it felt a little bit like Dawson's Creek, where the characters were talking like 35-year-old men who were being written for like 15-year-old teenage girls. But it had a bit of a Dawson's Creek thing to begin with, but it really got into those characters over time, and I really felt connected with them and who they were and their friendship. The friendship of them and the location. I felt familiar with it. I liked being there. I liked spending time with these people. I didn't really give a crap about the apocalypse that was coming. I didn't care what was happening next. I just wanted to spend time with them. And to me, that to me was kind of pure empathic immersion, social immersion. I wanted to be in that friends group. I felt like I was in that friends group. I felt like I was spending time with these people I liked being with. In a similar way, like Prince of Persia, Sands of Time. I like going on that emotional journey with the prince. I could probably draw you a map of a lot of those rooms, so I've got good spatial immersion from that game as well. But for me, the prince's journey that he goes on as a person, I find very compelling. That he starts off quite arrogant and frankly not necessarily a bad person, but he's got a lot of learning to do. And even in the last moments of the game, he realizes that consent and kissing people, consent has to be there. And even in the last moments of it, he realizes that he still has growing to do, and actually, so you can't force a person to love you, and sometimes you just have to walk away. Just that journey he goes on, I love spending time seeing that journey he's on, which kind of borders slightly into the next type of immersion a little way. But I think this is something where we see this blend between kind of what we kind of more think of the narrative and the sequential immersion and what social empathic. But I think we've all had this thing, and it was mentioned a moment ago that it could never be on the side of the Empire, so TIE Fighter doesn't work for you. You can't, you have a psychological barrier to that social context of that game.
Yeah.
And that's just not going to work for you. So I think it's interesting that some of these moments of these kind of immersive tools, these levers that a developer can pull, actually won't work for you and actually will push you away as well. I try my best to be an intersectional feminist and to be inclusive in my mindset. And there are some games that are too racist or too sexist or too objectifying of women that I just can't get past that barrier. It's like, yeah, you know what, this game might feel amazing to play, but it's sexist as fuck and I just don't want to play it.
Yeah,
it just pushes me away too often. I was like, yeah, I can get, I'm used to I've been playing games for 40 years now. I've seen some pretty awful stuff in video games in terms of sexism and racism, homophobia and violence. That's just natural. We know that's there in the video game industry and a lot of the content. Less so recently, fortunately, and I'm very pleased about that because it makes games fucking nicer to play.
Yeah.
I'm really pleased personally as a developer, and actually as I'd say 99.9% of the developers I've spoken to feel the same. And I've spoken from AAA through to indie, sometimes deliberately as research things, and this is a very common thing. Don't get me wrong, there are some people in the industry who are homophobic or sexist, and this absolutely exists, and racism is there as well. Ageism is particularly a problem in their industry as well. If you're my age, 45, you're considered a bit old for a studio. Maybe you're not with it enough to be able to write games. 45, you're too old. So there are prejudices and biases in the industry, absolutely. But most people, when you talk to a kind of AAA developer at the bar at GDC, they're like, yeah, actually, no, I realized 5 years ago we don't have any women in the games we've made in the studio. That's weird. We should fix that. That's not, we know that 30-40% for our last game, 30-40% of our player base was women. Maybe that should be more like 50. Maybe we should have some more women in the game as well, because it's weird that our games that we're making don't look like the audience playing them. So maybe we should do better. A little bit of a tangent, but my point is, though, that the content of the game can pull you in, but it can also push you away. And the type of characters and the social context you're in can make a huge difference there. So let's look at some of the examples you had.
Okay, so I guess
I love this example. This would not have been my obvious choice at all. I love you chose this example.
Okay. Yeah, I always cared for the lemmings. I was thinking about what they would say when they go. They can go to right, but also if there's an obstacle, they go back to left. So what would the lemmings coming back to the one going to the obstacle say? Have a fun at the obstacle, or maybe you should say, come back, there's an obstacle, we tried the other way, or something. So we was imagining what they would say. Also, we always would like to think of the different, what's it called, jobs types of lemmings. As one was the digger was very, very strong, and the one with the umbrella was very light, maybe a little bit longer and stuff like that. So we got very invested in the lemmings, and we don't want to see them fall to their death or burn, or you had this button on the bottom, you could explode them. Of course we did that, but it was not that for me. I cared for them.
I felt really bad when we had to do it, because there was quite a lot of levels where you'd have to put a blocker somewhere to get all the other people out, and then there was actually no way of unblocking the blocker.
Yeah,
and the only way
left.
to finish it.
No one's left behind.
Yeah, you're just like, and it would have that little voice. It wasn't very common to have speech in games back then, and his little voice goes, "Oh no!"
Yeah,
I still remember it. It was
bad.
Yeah, definitely. I like I say, I love this example. It wouldn't have been one that I thought of, but similar way, kind of worms as well, and just like a very quite limited set of voice samples, but still, I literally this week or last week, I'd written a line in the script, and I was reading it with some of the other developers, and the first word of the line was the word incoming. And it's sort of like incoming message received, but in my head, it's just it's the worm's voice from this. It goes incoming, it's just like I see the word incoming, and it's incoming, because that was how the word was in Worms, and I remember those characters, and they were like 8 pixels or something, tiny. They were tiny little things.
Very tiny.
So much personality though, and so felt connected with them. Yeah.
Obviously, Baldur's Gate also an RPG, but I think, at least for me, the first RPG where the characters in the party were talking with each other, not just with the, I don't know, bartender or major or stuff like that. They were talking with each other, and could fall in love with each other, or hated each other, or stuff like that. And that was very, very immersive. I cared for them very much. And for some, I didn't care at all. So, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think also, just comparing this also with XCOM as well, another game where you've got a party of people and you really begin to feel for those characters. And in XCOM, they've got much less personality than Baldur's Gate. They're literally people holding guns.
Yeah.
But the fact that you've gone on that journey with them, you've built that relationship with them, you feel connected, I think it's an incredibly powerful thing that we have there. I've actually got a student of ours who's proposing to do some work researching how you feel connected to groups and how to strengthen this for players, because it's a really powerful thing that can happen in video games, that you get a sense of connection with a group and a connection with the characters, and understanding more how this works. Because a lot of games design, we're just guessing, we're just kind of going, we think that'll work, let's just give it a try, and we release it, and it's either a smash hit or complete failure, and we're like, could have gone either way. You know, every time we release a game, we've done our best to make it good, but we can't be sure that we've got it right. And every single release of a game is nerve-wracking, because you just don't know. You just don't know for sure. You have a sense that something's good. I didn't know that Burnout Paradise was going to be as popular as it is, and you know, I still, like, was it 15 years after that game came out? I think now, something like that. People come to me and go, "Oh my god, you worked on Burnout Paradise! I love that game so much!" Or that game was my childhood, and you're like, I just was working like 70 hours a week, and I was tired, and I was doing my best, and the racing was rubbish until about 3 months before we released it. You know, it was not. A lot of the time when you're making it, your game doesn't feel good until very close to the end, very, very close to the end point, and you just can't know for sure whether you've nailed it until people get it out there.
Yeah, obviously you have so many systems that fit into each other, or have fit to each other, and they could only fit when they are nearly completed. So obviously you had,
absolutely. And you know, we're making Superfuse at the moment, and seeing all the systems slotting together is a very exciting kind of moment, where it's like, oh, that thing that we thought was going to feel good finally feels good. Yes.
Yeah. Obviously, it's not just Baldur's Gate. It's Baldur's Gate 2, it's Icewind Dale. I'm not sure about Dragon Age 1, but I think Dragon Age 1 had also this kind of interaction and social interaction with characters.
This sense that you can feel emotions of the characters, or that you just want to be friends with those characters, or you feel like you're friends with those characters. And I did say that this is not just with NPCs, but it also, if you look at like World of Warcraft guilds, you know, these are digital characters, the people that you've probably never met, but they are actually real people out there doing things. But it is the social context of the game, the guild that you are in, is what pulls you in, and the guild activities, that sense of being part of something virtual together, can be an incredibly engaging mechanic, an incredibly engaging system for engaging method of development in a way.
And I think that's the last one. I don't know if you ever played it, but I think RimWorld is one of my favorite games of all time. And you basically get stranded on this sci-fi world on the rim of the known universe. It's a little bit, if you know the show from Joss Whedon, Firefly, it's a little bit Firefly with cowboy hats and dusters, and there are laser weapons too, but most of them have semi-automatic weapons and stuff like that we have today. But also you have to fight other tribes on this planet, and you have to build your own tribe essentially, and try to repair or build a new spaceship to fly off this rim world. And on this way, you have an AI storyteller who throws stuff at you and sees how much it sticks, basically, and tries to destroy you and sometimes help you. And that is very, very fun, because it's a very, very detailed system. And these systems, there are so many systems that get together and have to work together. And there are all these small little buttons and stuff like that you could tweak the systems, and you're never sure how the outcome is, but you get really, really, really invested into the people there.
Yeah. I mean, this is only if you've connected with kind of the social setting, connected with people in the world, you've engaged with these kind of things. I think something that's very interesting for the future of games is procedural storytelling.
Yeah.
How do we generate stuff that feels as good as an author has written it, but in a way that is limitless and still engaging. It doesn't just feel like random nonsense. And it's actually quite a big challenge for a lot of game developers at the moment, how we do this. So a lot of the games where they have this kind of social empathic immersion, games like Life is Strange, are heavily pre-authored. You know, it's motion capture. It's very beautifully rendered scenes. It's all spoken by actors. There's a lot of performance behind this. Whereas obviously RimWorld is kind of the opposite in terms of production, in that there's a lot of randomization within that. It's very interesting that you can. That I probably wouldn't have thought of RimWorld for this, but I do absolutely agree that you can see how social empathic immersion does work for this too. Pretty good.
Yeah. There's hate, there's love, it's very grim and it's very, very dark. But on the other side, if you have some kind of dark humor, it's also very, very, very funny. And of course, I play this regularly with a friend, and we are still laughing at every bit of it. And it's just a fun game. I recommend it to everyone.
The plot you were describing there, the trying to build a spaceship to get off a world, reminded me of Toe Jam and Earl, a game from the early 1990s. There's these two aliens. I was playing it on the Mega Drive, the Genesis, the Sega system, and these two funky aliens walking around. This kind of very laid back, kind of early 90s MTV kind of cartoon style to the whole thing, and it was just weird and outlandish. But again, it was like, I enjoy spending time with these characters. The game itself was okay, but just walking around with these characters, responding to the world, and just the weird, like there was this Cupid, and all of the Cupid, everything in the world was slightly ugly in a weird way. And these Cupids had these weird noises like la la la, and they're just like this weird growling, slightly sort of Cupidy thing, like la la la, what you'd imagine a Cupid bit with, is like la la la. And that society of that kind of social context that you were playing in made the game fun. You know, if this was like standard Space Marines trying to build a spaceship, that game would have been bland and average. But the way it was dressed up with those characters and that social context made it engaging. And that's also why I talk about, and why I wanted to kind of write this thing about immersion, was to help video game developers concentrate on what can we do that's unique, rather than just kind of we're going to make it immersive. What does that mean?
Yeah,
you need to think about it in more kind of granularity. You need to be able to break down where you want to spend your time for uniqueness to actually make it something engaging which stands out from the rest of the crowd.
Yeah. Okay, let's have a look at the chat.
Social empathic immersion in the chat. Let's see what people have got.
Okay, they basically agree with me. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. Also, they remember the lemmings sound before exploding. Yeah, I think everyone will remember that.